Dear friends, amidst the relentless storms of modern life, have you ever paused to wonder what can truly bring peace to a restless heart? It's not the fleeting glow of fame, nor the glitter of material treasures, but the quiet stillness, an eternal light that glows softly within our subconscious, handed down through the timeless tales of ancient sages. From the philosophers who shaped the course of history, the simple teachings of our ancestors, to the proverbs that echo across distant lands, stillness is the guiding beacon, like a gentle breeze whispering through an ancient forest, inviting us to find serenity. Today, let us embark on a profound journey together where true stories, oral traditions, and lessons from centuries past intertwine, like a tranquil river winding through the mountains, awakening in us a deeper sense of peace and understanding. Our exploration today centers on the profound lesson of stillness, not merely the absence of motion, but a deep internal quietude, a state of being that allows wisdom to surface, clarity to emerge, and the true essence of ourselves to be revealed. This isn't a new concept. For millennia, across diverse cultures and through the voices of those who walked before us, the power of stillness has been recognized as a cornerstone of a meaningful life. Consider the wisdom of ancient Greece around the 6th century BCE. Pythagoras, the sage of Samos, whose teachings influenced mathematics, philosophy, and even music, placed immense value on inner silence. It is said that his students were often required to observe periods of silence, sometimes lasting for years. This wasn't a punishment, but a deliberate practice to cultivate inner listening, to allow the noise of the external world to subside so that the deeper harmonies of the cosmos and of their own souls could be heard. Pythagoras believed that true knowledge and wisdom arose from this inner stillness, a space where the mind could connect with universal truths, much like a calm lake perfectly reflects the heavens above. Centuries later, in the heart of the Roman Empire, Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor of the 2nd century CE, echoed this sentiment in his Meditations. Amidst the turmoil of leadership and the demands of a vast empire, Aurelius persistently returned to the wellspring of inner stillness. He wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." For Aurelius, this inner sanctuary was not an escape from the world, but rather the very foundation upon which to engage with it wisely and virtuously. He understood that the constant flux of external events could easily overwhelm the mind, leading to anxiety and poor judgment. By cultivating stillness, by observing his own thoughts and emotions with detached clarity, he could navigate the complexities of his life with greater equanimity. His words resonate with the directness of a seasoned warrior, yet carry the profound depth of a soul that has found peace amidst the battles of existence. Let us now turn our gaze eastward to the ancient traditions of mindfulness that have flourished for thousands of years. While rooted in specific spiritual contexts, the core principle of cultivating stillness transcends religious boundaries. The practice of meditation in its various forms is fundamentally about training the mind to become still, to observe the present moment without judgment. Think of the early Buddhist teachings dating back to the 6th century BCE in ancient India. The emphasis on mindful awareness, on simply observing the breath or the flow of thoughts without getting carried away by them, is a powerful method for cultivating inner stillness. This isn't about emptying the mind, but rather about creating a space where thoughts and feelings can arise and pass without disturbing the underlying tranquility, much like clouds drifting across a clear sky. Even in the seemingly boisterous oral traditions of various cultures, the value of stillness often lies beneath the surface. Consider the proverbs and adages passed down through generations. In many Western cultures, we find sayings like, "Still waters run deep." This simple phrase encapsulates the idea that outward calm often signifies inner wisdom and profound understanding. It suggests that those who are not constantly seeking attention or engaging in superficial chatter may possess a depth of knowledge and insight that is not immediately apparent. These concise nuggets of ancestral wisdom, like pebbles smoothed by the relentless flow of time, remind us of the power held within quiet contemplation. Think also of the unverified, yet deeply resonant, stories of figures who found wisdom in solitude and stillness. The legends surrounding hermits and recluses, individuals who chose to withdraw from the noise of society to seek deeper truths, exist across many cultures. Whether it's the image of a solitary sage meditating in a mountain cave or a desert ascetic finding enlightenment through prayerful silence, these stories, though perhaps embellished over time, point to a fundamental human recognition of the profound insights that can arise from stillness. There's a vivid imagery in these tales, a sense of connection to a deeper reality found not in bustling marketplaces but in the hushed whispers of the natural world. Consider the early Christian desert fathers of the 3rd and 4th centuries CE in Egypt. Seeking spiritual purification and a deeper connection with the divine, they retreated to the harsh silence of the desert. Their lives, marked by asceticism and prayer, were a testament to the transformative power of solitude and stillness. In their silence, they confronted their inner demons, wrestled with profound questions of faith, and ultimately, many believed, found a profound and unshakable peace. Their sayings, passed down through oral tradition and later written down, often emphasize the importance of a quiet heart and a focused mind in the pursuit of spiritual understanding. Even within the vibrant tapestry of early medieval monastic life in Europe, a significant emphasis was placed on periods of silence. The Benedictine monasteries, for example, established in the 6th century CE, incorporated rules that mandated times of quiet contemplation, reading, and prayer. This wasn't simply about maintaining order, it was a recognition that true learning, both spiritual and intellectual, required a degree of inner stillness, a space free from the constant distractions of the world. The lesson that emerges from these diverse examples, spanning continents and centuries, is clear. Stillness is not a passive state, but an active cultivation of inner peace and wisdom. It is the fertile ground from which profound insights can blossom. It is the anchor that holds us steady amidst the storms of life. It is the quiet whisper that guides us towards our truest selves. In our modern world, filled with the incessant clamor of notifications, the relentless pursuit of external validation, and the constant pressure to be productive, the wisdom of stillness is perhaps more relevant than ever. To carve out moments of quietude, to intentionally step away from the noise and turn our attention inward, is not a luxury but a necessity for our mental, emotional, and even spiritual well-being. Just as a still pond reflects the surrounding landscape with perfect clarity, a still mind allows us to see ourselves and the world around us with greater understanding. It is in these moments that we can connect with the ancestral wisdom that resides within us, the quiet knowing that has been passed down through generations. It is in these moments that the proverbs we've heard, the stories we've been told, can truly resonate, offering guidance and solace. So, dear friends, let us embrace the enduring power of stillness. Let us seek out moments of quiet in our daily lives, however brief. Let us learn to listen not just to the noise of the world, but to the gentle whisper within. For it is that stillness that we will find a deeper peace, a clearer understanding, and a connection to the timeless wisdom of the ages. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the heart of stillness. If you found value in these ancient lessons, please consider subscribing to our channel for more insights into the essence of ancient wisdom. Share this video with those who might benefit from its message, and let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We truly appreciate your engagement. In our next video, we will delve into the profound art of mindful living, exploring how ancient practices can help us savor each moment and find joy in the present. Until then, may you find moments of peace and stillness in your own lives.